and I welcome all of you to the business communication course. This is the first session. I'm going to share my screen, and today we are going to have a very brief, very simple and a very brief introduction of this course. And I guess as most of you might be wondering that it looks primarily a very simple course, communication, and you have been engaging in communication since a very long time. Since the time we are born, we are in some sort of communication with our surroundings, with the people around us. But this time we are here and we will be studying and understanding business communication, and that too from the perspective of the modern day business, as well as from the perspective of employment. So when I first, when I remember my days of MBA, many of my seniors and many of my classmates were not serious about this course, and they thought that, okay, there are two kinds of courses which we usually have in our MBA program. One are the hard skills, like the data analytics and the spreadsheet and economics and finance, hard to learn many times, QM, quantitative methods. So it requires like your analytical abilities, and we tend to think of them as more important. However, one of my senior, who at that time was doing, basically he was in a job, and I had a chance of interacting with that person. So he told me interestingly that, believe me, that were his words, believe me, that once you get out of your MBA, there are hardly any jobs which will be available to you at the starting of your career where you will apply QM, where you will apply operations management, where you will apply the 4 P's of marketing. But even before you start your job, you start your career, you will start applying the concepts you learn in business communication course. And many of us did not take that advice very seriously. And we thought that, okay, it is kind of a soft skill, and soft skills are natural. We have our natural tendency, we have a natural ability to develop these skills, and we will develop them in due course. However, that is, I think, a wrong assumption. And business communication, if we take it very seriously, if we develop our communication, I think it has a lot of value. In fact, it has much more value than, I'm not comparing it with other courses as such. They have their own values, but the immediacy or the immediate impact this course can have on your career is much more than the other courses which you will study during your MBA program. So with this, let me just start. So there are some housekeeping rules. I would like all of you to keep your videos on. I know that many of you are not used to, because we have developed this knack of attending the classes from our homes, obviously, from the comfort of our homes, I would not say. But this is just an advice which I want to give all of you, that even if you are attending from your homes, please be professional. Please try to make a professional corner for yourself where you can have, where you have your system, where you have your set system and everything in place. So be professional in that. Try to attend the classes. Try to attend it not lying down on your beds. Try to be, because if you develop this habit at this stage, it will be very difficult for you to be professional and attend. Even online meetings today have become very, very professional, and online, everything is going online, but the online world is getting very professional, and the work is getting done at tremendous speed and with a lot of professionalism and a lot of efficiency also. So try to keep your videos on in case you have low bandwidth, which I think that majority of you will not have. Only few of you may have the issue of low bandwidth. So you can keep your videos off in that case. But again, that's a judgment to you. I still don't see any face here. So that's unfortunate. You can keep yourself on mute unless you are speaking to avoid the background noise and to avoid the disturbances. You can use the chat to write the questions, not just your roll numbers, but also write your questions or anything which you want to share. Raise your hand. There is an option of raising the hand if there's any important question in between. And you can lower your hand, obviously, by clicking it again if you have. So with this, let me just move ahead and let us see. Okay, so we have our session today and we have certain objectives set for the session. So by the end of this session, you will be able to appreciate the value of communication in the business world as well as for your career. Also describe the structure of business communication course. Today we will study about, also discuss the logistics of this course, that how we are going to move forward in this course. Describe the models of communication, very simple models of communication, but very important to understand, and identify some of the barriers in communication. So barriers of communication, we will continue in the next sessions also. So with this, these are the objectives of today's session. So before we move to the hardcore objectives and we move to the content of this session, let me ask you to do one small thing. All of you must have your smartphones with you. So what I'll request you, that please log on to this www.menti.com on your smartphones. Please do it very quickly. And you have a code. And this is the code 48384913. So I'm writing this is in chat also. 48384913. Okay, and just answer this question, that why learning business communication is important for you from your perspective. So I want to understand that what do you feel or what do you think about this course? I hope the instructions are clear. Okay, so we have first response. Let us have some more responses quickly. Okay, to enhance the soft skills. Better relationships, okay, to have confidence, customers, clients, to convey thoughts, to polish your personality, to improve interpersonal skills, overall picture of business, ideas, exchange of ideas, very, very important. This difficult direct control of a team. Okay, team management, very well said here. Overall grooming. Okay. Indulge clients. Okay, you want to sell, you want to indulge clients, to keep employees informed and reduce errors, to improve entities practice. Okay, to convey our ideas to the other business team. Okay, convey, yes. Relationships, yes, relationship is coming again and again. To grow, very well said, to grow in competitive world. Communication is the key to successful business, very well said. It is very necessary that communication process is done efficiently without any barriers. Okay. Corporate setup is a different ball game, and it's necessary to understand how we are expected to express ourselves. Okay, the most important aspect of communication is to deliver our thoughts in a well expressed and transparent manner. Very good. Important to communicate efficiently and present us in a presentable manner. Improving confidence, expression of ideas, unforeseen situation. Okay. Okay, very well. It is helpful to communicate and keep good relation with customers. Okay. Be efficient in professional as well as personal life. Okay, someone pointed out technology, and we will continue again and again with this technology part, and I think it has become very, very important for us. Relationship builds soft skills. Okay. New business ideas, making plans, executing decisions. Okay. All right. I think we've got some wonderful responses here from, I think, majority of the people have started responding. And now most of us, I think, are on the right track, are on the right page in understanding the essence, understanding the need for communication. And we understand that it is a very, very important skill and a critical skill for us, for our growth, for our survival, I would say, in this modern competitive world, in business world. Not just in business world, it's also in personal life. In our personal life, the importance of communication cannot be ignored. And building relationships, I think, is coming up again and again. So, okay. So to build trust, for executing things, for selling ideas, for doing a lot of other things. And this is, I think, okay. So let me just stop sharing here. I think we have got, I think, the gist of what everyone is feeling here. And everyone is we are very much on the same page in terms of what this communication course, why this communication course is important for us. So in fact, it is a very interesting quote by Lee Iacocca, who was the president of Chrysler Motors, who said that you can have brilliant ideas, but if you can't get them across, your ideas won't get you anywhere. And it is one of the very fundamental needs of individuals to get their ideas across to other people. And that is what communication is. Now, efficiently and effectively doing it is a process. And this process is not just an inborn process. We learn this process throughout our conditioning, which we go as a child and then as adults. However, in business world, what happens that business communication is purposeful. So we communicate all the time, but in business, we communicate with a purpose. So that's what we are going to learn and try to understand in this course of business communication. Now, why this course is very, very critical for us to learn is that when I'll give this task to you, any one of you, just Google any job description which you can for any job profile which you want in your life. Say, for example, you want to work in supply chain, you want to work in marketing, you want to work in any area you want. You will find these two terms, or basically these two themes, I would say, somewhere in the job description of the job requirement. Strong verbal and written presentation or effective communication skills. So you will find these 2-3 terms somewhere in the job description. I am yet to come across any job description where communication skills, effective communication skills are not required. Even if, say, for example, you are working alone, you are like you are a loner, you want to work on research, or you are doing some research also, where you are working completely on your own. But if you don't have the ability to communicate your results to the entire world, if you don't have that ability, I think you will not be an effective, even effective scientist. You may be a very good inventor, but if you are not going to make others understand your invention, you will not be a good inventor in that case. Nobody will know whether you invented that. So every job description you will come across, you will find that there is a strong requirement of effective communication skills, as well as strong verbal or written presentation. Some form of written presentation or verbal presentation is required. So as individuals will require a lot of these communication skills for your job interviews, for persuading people during the job interviews, as well as persuading clients, persuading, if you are entrepreneurs, you're persuading you say, for example, investors, your customers, impressing upon people. We do it all the time. If you don't have good communication skills, we will not be able to impress upon people. And I mean, it's not about just plain simple speaking. You can impress people by your written communication. You can impress people by your listening ability. Okay, you will have to lead people, and leading people requires you to be a very effective communicator. You need a lot of confidence in doing all of these things, and communication improves your confidence. It basically helps you in mobilizing people for work, mobilizing people for say, for example, if you are working in a team, you are a team leader, then mobilizing, and also mobilizing resources, not just human resources, but also other resources. You may also need communication because this world is very diverse. And with technology, with diversity, with decentralization, with time constraints, we also feel there are a lot of conflicts going on around us. And conflicts are very, very common. So for resolving those conflicts, we need very good communication skills. Then even just simple conversations, good quality conversations. In fact, I remember one of a very senior person who has worked in a lot of, he's worked in Tata's, he's worked in a lot of other companies, he's at the level of a director. And I was asking that, what do you look for in a person when you promote a person? When you promote a person to, say, in the higher management? So the answer was that a person who gets promoted in the higher management is a person who can have very good conversations, who can have intelligent conversations. Because with clients, with your team members, you want to have intelligent conversations. So intelligent conversations are also very much part of the personality. You think that people, once they go in the hierarchy of an organization, the skills required to lead the organization are very much more of soft skills, which are of primary need. A CEO does not do, say, for example, does not make spreadsheets, does not do the quantitative analysis of route making. Okay, what a CEO does? CEO communicates the results to the entire world. CEO motivates the team to come across. CEO monitors the team. So that's what CEO does. So conversation becomes very, very important. And obviously selling. We are selling every time. Like whatever we are doing, we are selling something or the other. Sometimes we are selling ourselves as personalities, as good candidates. Sometimes we are selling products or services. So for all of this, we require good communication skills. So I think this is the need that we need to internalize very well. Moving ahead, let us understand what is communication. Now, we have understood that why communication is very important. Let us also understand what is communication, what we are just talking up to each other. Is it conversation? Is it communication? And the answer is yes. Communication is a process of passing information from a source to a receiver. Okay, so this communication is always a process. However, we have to understand that we can have a more complicated definition of communication also, like for example, the art of transmitting knowledge, ideas, information, thoughts from one person to another. So that is also the definition of communication. However, the transfer should be such that the receiver understands the meaning and intent of the message. And many a times, we as senders of information are more interested in our part, transmission. However, we are missing many times on the part that whether that transmission has reached the receiver and the receiver has decoded it the way we wanted that. Receiver has understood the message, the intent of the message. So I think that's the complete definition of communication. It's a lot of importance in business world. It is necessary for planning. It is necessary for understanding each other, effective leadership, increased efficiency. It's for coordination, decision making, you name it. And communication is there in all of the things which we need for an organization to work, for our careers to grow. So in this course, how we are going to move ahead in this course, let me just describe you the logistics of this course. This course is being divided into various, like again, we have not divided this course in terms of units as such. So you will find that in the syllabus, you will find units are there, and you may find some elements of the units mixed here and there. However, we are going to proceed in a manner which I have just described on this slide. So in the first part, we are going to focus on the communication process and the barriers and the C's of effective communication. Okay. What does it mean? What the qualities of an effective communication is. Okay. Then on the next stage, we move to the gaining self-awareness. Self-awareness is very, very critical for having good communication skills. Why? Because the first level of communication always happens within the person. If we are not able to communicate within ourselves, we will not be able to effectively communicate with the outside world. So gaining self-awareness is very important. So we will do certain exercises in this. So in the first part, we will do an exercise called Who Am I? And Professor Parvez Talib will explain you about that exercise, and maybe tomorrow. We will also do another in gaining self-awareness. We will do an activity in the class where we will try to get deeper into ourselves and try to understand our own personality a bit, and what are the areas on which we have to work, and what are our strengths from that matter. And with this, once we have clarified these things, we will move to the stage where we can actually start planning our career. Now again, planning our career, we will not be able to complete it in this short span of time, okay? Because careers grow, opportunities come, people develop. So career planning is a continuous process. But we will try to start this process right here in this course with this second part of this course, which is the gaining self-awareness. Then the third part is focused on effective writing. In this, we will cover the writing skills, which, for example, the letter writing. Today, it is like email writing, memos, or report writing. So all of these parts, all of these will be covered in this effective writing, and we will do some exercises, and you will do it on your own also. There will be some assignments also in this. Then the fourth part is interpersonal and non-verbal communication. Now it's very, very critical, and in fact, it has become very critical because we are getting trained in a very different form of communication today, which is we call the computer-mediated communication, like what we are having today. In this type of communication, how do you develop that interpersonal and non-verbal communication? It's very, very critical. Now, interpersonal communication today, I work with organizations where they are using a lot of collaboration tools, online collaboration tools, which are very effective today. And in that, a lot of interpersonal relationships are getting built, though not in the same way we used to have in a live cohabited environments, but in a different way. It doesn't mean that interpersonal relationships are gone or like that. Interpersonal communication is very much important. We will talk about non-verbal communication. We will talk about the ability to listen. in this. We'll talk about the gestures and all these things in this. Then we will also talk about job-related communication. In fact, we will start this process. Again, we are not going to go step by step in each one of them. We will simultaneously do certain things. Job-related communication includes your writing of your resumes or creation of your CVs, curriculum vitae. So your job descriptions, your cover letters for your jobs, your continuous communication, maybe your social media profiles today, your LinkedIn profile. So we will talk about all of these things, and we will invite some experts from industry as well for delivering guest lectures on this part. And finally, effective oral communication. Now, many a times earlier we used to give a lot of emphasis on oral communication, and we still are giving. And oral communication in this world where it is again computer mediated communication is very different but very important. Okay. So overall, the communication process involves listening, speaking, reading, writing, and non-verbal. We will be covering all of these things in this structure. Usually speaking and writing are more of transmission skills where you transmit. However, listening and reading are more of a reception skills where you receive the skill, you receive the information. So we will try to have a mix of all of these things in that through assignments, through our activities, through our classes, through reflection, through discussions, and guest lectures. I hope that you will enjoy this process. So let us now try to understand what this communication process is all about. So let us move ahead. Like I said, that business communication is purposeful. The goal of business communications are primarily, there are three goals. Please remember these three goals. The first goal is to inform. Whatever you are doing, say for example, even it doesn't matter whether you are situated at the bottom of the hierarchy in the organization or top of the hierarchy in the organization or anywhere. We always have one task is to inform. Say for example, about the task which was given to us, or about some other eventuality which has occurred, or about an event, to inform others. So that's the first goal. The second goal is to persuade. I have a brilliant idea. I want to persuade others to follow that idea. Even if I'm working in a team, in a collaborative environment, I would try to persuade others to my way of thinking. That's what we do all the time, to persuade people. And third is to mobilize. To mobilize means to basically not just persuade, but go a step further to basically collect the resources for whatever activity or whatever action which we want others to take. Okay. So to inform, either to persuade or to mobilize. Communication can also happen in many directions. It can happen in an organization vertical upwards, where we report to others, where we report on, say, the task given to us, to others in the organization, which are at the above in the hierarchy to us. Then we can also have vertical downwards communication, where we communicate downwards. We say give instructions to others. Okay. So many times this is our job. When we are working in teams and we are the team leader, we will always we will communicate vertically downwards also. Then we can also communicate sideways or horizontal, where we say for example we work in a collaboration, we are working in a team, or we are just communicating it to the others in different teams who are working on the same project or another aspect of the project. So we are just communicating with them. So it is not vertical or upwards or downwards. It is horizontal or sideways communication. So communication can happen in any direction in an organization. There are two models of communication, and very simply, one is the linear model and the other is the interactive model. Linear model, the information is transmitted from a sender to a receiver, via a channel in between, but there is no feedback. Say, for example, you are giving a speech. That is one-way communication. Though there are certain things which there are some feedbacks which you are getting, however, in the form of, say, non-verbal gestures. However, if you are giving a speech in front of a screen, then obviously you are just transmitting that, you are sending that information via a channel, however, you are not receiving any feedback. This is the linear model. Okay. Where there is a sender sends a message to a receiver. This is the first model, and there are a lot of researchers who have done research on this model. There are different variations in this model, so we are not going to complicate this. There is Shannon-Weaver model, and there are named after the researchers who have done research on these models and tried to, through research process, try to establish certain aspects of each stage in this model. However, for our purpose, we will move ahead. The second is the interactive model, where there is always a feedback. There is a sender, there is a source, and again there is a message. That message is transmitted through a channel to a receiver, and from the receiver there is a feedback loop to the sender. Okay, so that is the difference between this linear model and the interactive model is the feedback. Okay, so like for example, having a conversation with someone. So you say something, you are conversing with something, you say, the other person responds. Okay, so you are receiving a feedback, whether the person may ask you a question in response, so, or ask for clarification or for anything else. So there is this model in which there is a sender who encodes the message and then sends it to the receiver, and the receiver decodes the message, and there is a feedback loop which is continuously going through this. Okay. Now again, this model looks very simple, but if we look at each one of the stages or each one of the things in this model, we'll find that there are a lot of things hidden in this. For example, this encoding. This process of encoding is very, very critical and many a times often ignored. For example, if you are giving a presentation, so what is the encoding here, this process? Even your research, what you are putting in your slide is encoding. And if at that time you don't take into account the characteristics of the receiver or the attributes of the receiver, you will not be able to encode the message in the right spirit. So we will always, the process of encoding is very, very important. Say for example, you are writing a letter, you are writing an email. If you don't consider that how this message will be decoded or received by the receiver, your message, your communication will be incomplete, and you will get a negative feedback or a feedback which requires you to take further action. And in this process, there is always a lot of noise going on. And again, noise is a very, very important thing. And in fact, we call this noise barriers also. We basically use these terms sometimes interchangeably, barriers and noise and all these things. So this model is very, very critical for us to understand. And in fact, this is what the present day model is. What I am saying, I am encoding. What say, for example, sentences I am making to make you understand one thing is I am encoding this message. And then there is a channel through which I am communicating. This channel is today, it's an online video conferencing mode, which is, say, Zoom is a tool, but that's the medium, that's the channel which I am using. And you are decoding it in your brain and you are receiving it. And then maybe you encode something else and you give me feedback also. So you say, for example, if I ask you whether you have understood and I ask you for your reaction, so there is a reaction button and I ask there is a yes or no, there is a thumbs up or thumbs down. So that is what the feedback in this model can be. But there are ways in which you give feedback. Feedbacks are sometimes given through non-verbal gestures. All right, so let us So in this model, encoding is basically the putting your thought or information into words, signs, or symbols. Channel is the medium which is used to transmit the message. It can be verbal, or it can be through any medium in between, or it can be through, say for example, written channel. Then decoding takes place when the sender basically interprets the message, and decoding takes place when the receiver basically tries to understand what the sender has conveyed. And then there is a feedback. So where there you give a response back to the receiver. Okay. So many a times it happens that some part of this model is having some issue, and that is where I think many times our communication gets a little bit blocked, or communication gets a little bit tricky here. Okay. And in between, there is noise that disrupts the communication. Say, for example, there are language issues. There is a psychological barriers. There is a tendency to judge people. There is a lot of other things which can happen in between. So noise is something which is constantly bothering us. Maybe it may be physical, something physical barrier is there, or some psychological or social barrier is there, or some organizational barrier is there. We'll talk about that in a bit. Let me show you a small video, and it's kind of a funny video to understand that how sometimes these semantics and all different kinds of noise or barriers come into play when people try to communicate with each other. Okay.
Mr. President, Condoleezza Rice is here to see you.
Good. Send her in.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Oh, Condoleezza, good to see you. What's happening?
Well, Mr. President, I have the report here about the new leader in China.
That's great, Condi. Let's hear it.
Mr. President, who is the new leader of China?
Well, that's what I want to know.
But that's what I'm telling you, Mr. President.
Well, that's what I'm asking you, Condi. Who is the new leader of China?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
Who?
The guy in China.
Who?
The new leader of China.
Who?
The Chinaman.
Who is leading China, Mr. President?
What are you asking me for?
I'm telling you who is leading China.
Well, I'm asking you, Condi, who is leading China?
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Will you or will you not tell me the name of the new leader of China?
Yes, sir.
Yasser? Yasser Arafat is in China? I thought he was in the Middle East.
That's correct, sir.
Then who is in China?
Yes, sir.
Yasser is in China?
No, sir.
Then who is?
Yes, sir.
Yasser?
No, sir.
I need to know the name of the new leader of China. So I want you to get me the Secretary General of the United Nations on the phone.
You want coffee?
No.
You don't want coffee?
No. But now that you mention it, I could use a glass of milk. And then get me the UN.
Yes, sir.
Like Yasser. The guy at the United Nations.
Coffee?
No. Will you please make me call?
And call who?
Well, who is the guy at the UN?
No. Who is the guy in China?
Will you stay out of China?
Yes, sir.
And stay out of the Middle East? Just get me the guy at the UN.
Coffee?
All right. With cream and 2 sugars. Now get on the phone.
Hello. Rice here.
Rice? Good idea. And get a couple of egg rolls too, Condi. Maybe we should send some to the guy in China and the Middle East. Can you get Chinese food in the Middle East? I don't know.
So actually, this is if some of you did not get some of the things here, I just to explain here that this is the time where President Bush was in office and Condoleezza Rice was the Secretary of State at that time, and Hu Jintao was the Chinese president, and he was recently elected in China. So the President Bush was asking who is the leader of China, and Condoleezza Rice was saying who is the leader in China. And Yasser Arafat obviously was the leader of Palestine at the time. And Kofi Annan was United Nations Secretary General. So it was coffee. So that's what the confusion was all about. So that sometimes happens, and it's a funny adaptation of the barriers. So likewise, we can have a lot of other barriers of communication in this. So I'll just quickly throw some light on it, and then we will maybe reserve 5 minutes for the questions or anything if there are. So there are a lot of barriers, and barriers can happen at 3 levels in the communication. The first level is obviously the physical level, where the barriers can take place, which is done at the level of our senses. The second is the level of intelligence, where it can happen at the level of intelligence. Third is the emotional level, acceptance of the communication. So barriers can happen at any of these 3 levels, and we can call barriers as anything that hinders the process of communication in any way. That is a barrier, communication. Okay, so it can be defined as any aspect or condition that interferes with effective exchange of ideas or thoughts. There can be a lot of factors which can impact these barriers. Like, for example, there can be environmental factors, technological factors, organizational jargons, personal interest of people. There can be other things like halo effect, misinterpretation, trust issues, the chain of command in the organization, negative self-image of the individual, a lot of other things. So we divide the barriers into various types, basically. There are physical barriers, there are semantic and language barriers, there are socio-psychological barriers, there are organizational barriers, and there are cross-cultural barriers. So now I'm going to very quickly go through all of these things. I think with the names itself, we can understand a lot of things. So I'm not going to go deep into each one of them. But like physical barriers can be, say, for example, the faulty organizational structure, or say, for example, large working areas, closed office, physical barrier of any kind. There is a barrier in between which prohibits information passing from each other. Or there is a door, like you can just imagine it like there are the 2 rooms and there is a wall in between. So any kind of this is basically noise. So it can have an impact on that. Then you can also have written physical barriers. Say, for example, bad handwriting is a written physical barrier. Or say, for example, visual noise, which we call like late arrival of employees. Now someone is communicating and someone is getting into the room. And we have seen this many times. It happens in our live meetings. Someone is giving a presentation, some class is going on, others are entering. That is also basically a visual noise. Then you have psychological noise also, inattentiveness. You are doing focus on something else. So these are some form of that. Time and distance can also be one of the factors in physical noise. Like, for example, network facilities, mechanical breakdowns of things, defects in medium of communication, or something of that sort. And nowadays it is very common. Information overload was also, like there is limited time and you have lot of information and you are given like a task, and excess number of people are assigned the same task. You have to like pick up information from a huge pile of files. Today, internet is basically giving us information overload in everything. The moment you search, you type anything in Google or Bing, you get millions of search results. And that basically many times gives you an information overload and sometimes creates biases also, which we'll talk about in some other things. So that's physical barriers. Then you have semantic and language barriers. So we will not go deep into again these things, and which we saw in the animated adaptation here in the video also, that semantic and language barriers can occur. Like for example, we have homophones, which have the same pronunciation, but we have different spellings and different meanings. Okay, the way who was like Hu Jintao. There is a Chinese name Hu, and then Who, WHO. So then you have homographs, which have the same spelling but can have different pronunciation and meaning. So you may confuse it when you are writing something, or sometimes it can happen. So homographs are others. Homonyms are the others, where the pronunciation and spellings are same, but the meaning is different. Like, for example, desert, close. So all of these have different meanings. Okay, so then you can have in language barriers, you can have different language. Some people are good at, say, one language, but may not be good at other language. And sometimes there is no clarity of speech. That can also be a language barrier. Using of too much jargons, people talking in terms of like muhavre and all these things. Okay, jargons. And using phrases which are not very common for others to understand or decode. Not being specific, sometimes talking here and there, but not coming to the point is also can be a barrier. Then you have socio-psychological barriers. Again, they are very, very important. Socio-psychological barriers include, and in fact, in organizational behavior paper, you will learn a lot of these things. You will learn a lot of these things in socio-psychological barriers. Like, for example, information overload. The opinions of others, stereotyping, inattention. The mind is closed, the field of expression is different. So status difference can many a times, like for example, the people communicating from the above, communicating it to you can block your mind, and you can have some biases and all. And people are we are full of biases. There's racism, there's all different kinds of biases in us. And many times we are not very well aware of all of these things also. And finally, we have cross-cultural bias. Today, that is becoming very, very critical. In fact, we will devote some time in the coming classes in understanding this cross-cultural barriers also. So I'm going to skip to this. And finally, we have organizational barriers. In organizational barriers, we have, like for example, the rules and the regulations of the organization, the position, the status, the facilities in the organization, the structure of the organization, and all of these things. So all of these things may impact the communication process in some way or the other. And in the coming classes, we will going to deal with it one by one. And whenever the time permits, we will go deep into all of these things in that. Okay. So with this, I think we have come to an end. I'll skip some of the part. You can look at these things. We will be uploading these presentations on the Google Classroom also, so you can have a look at it. And there will be assignments there uploaded on, and we will continue to communicate on WhatsApp. And so today, what we covered so far, we covered that communication is fundamental to the success in this world. We all understand that today. And models of communication, we discussed two models. One is the linear model, very simple, and then the interactive model. And we also talked about the barriers in this model, the noise, the physical barriers, the semantic and language barriers, socio-psychological, organizational barriers, and cross-cultural barriers. So we have come to an end. If there are any doubts, if there are any queries, what I all see in this in the chat box is never a question, and only the information about the time is over and your roll numbers. So would love to see some questions here if there are any. Yes, anyone? Any question?
No, sir.
All right. So with this, we come to an end. So thank you very much. So tomorrow, the class, business communication class, has been exchanged with the organizational behavior class. So in the third period, you will have the organizational behavior class, and business communication class will take place at 12:55. And Professor Taleb will engage that class. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.